Welcome to Gripping Tales. Are you ready for today's video? It starts now.
What if the worst Christmas gift you ever received wasn't just thoughtless, but terrifying? Christmas is supposed to be about joy, generosity, and thoughtful presents wrapped with care. But for some people, opening a gift on Christmas morning has revealed something far darker than disappointment, something that made them realize the person who gave it to them knew too much, or wanted to send a message, or was watching them in ways they never should have been. Tonight, I'm sharing 7 disturbing Christmas gifts people actually received. These aren't stories about ugly sweaters or regifted candles. These are real incidents where Christmas presents crossed the line from awkward into genuinely disturbing gifts that violated privacy, revealed obsessions, and in some cases, led to police investigations. From stalkers who used gifts to prove they'd been watching, to presents that contained hidden threats, these stories will make you think twice about what's really wrapped in that box under the tree. Let's unwrap them. In December 2018, a woman named Rachel, who shared her story anonymously on a true crime forum, received a Christmas gift from someone she barely knew. Rachel worked as a barista at a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon. One of her regular customers was a man in his 40s who came in every morning. He was polite, quiet, always ordered the same drink. Rachel never thought much about him beyond normal customer-employee pleasantness. But on December 23rd, as Rachel was finishing her shift, the man approached the counter with a wrapped gift. "Merry Christmas," he said, sliding the package across to her. "I wanted to give you something to show my appreciation for your kindness." Rachel was caught off guard but accepted the gift politely. She thanked him and set it aside, planning to open it later. When her shift ended, she took the gift to her car and unwrapped it. Inside was a photo album. At first, Rachel thought maybe it was an album full of inspirational quotes or nature photos. Something generic you might give to someone you don't know well. But when she opened the cover, her stomach dropped. The album was full of photos of her. Not selfies. Not photos she'd posted on social media. These were candid photos. Pictures of Rachel walking to her car, getting her mail, sitting on her apartment balcony, working behind the coffee shop counter. Photos taken without her knowledge. Photos taken from a distance, with a zoom lens, capturing moments when she was alone and unaware. There were over 50 photographs. Some were time-stamped. They went back 6 months to this man. This man had been following her, photographing her, documenting her life for half a year. Rachel's hands were shaking as she flipped through the pages. Near the end of the album, there was a handwritten note. "I hope you like these. I think you're beautiful in every moment, even when you don't know anyone is watching. Merry Christmas. Your secret admirer." Rachel immediately drove to the police station. Officers took the album as evidence and launched an investigation into the man. When they questioned the man, he admitted to taking the photos, but claimed he didn't mean any harm. He said he was documenting beauty and thought Rachel would be flattered. He was charged with stalking and harassment. A restraining order was issued. Rachel quit her job at the coffee shop and moved to a different neighborhood. She never found out how many more photos he had. She never found out where else he'd followed her or what else he knew about her life. She just knows that every time she's in public now, she wonders if someone is watching. Someone with a camera. Someone waiting for the right moment to give her another gift. What would you do if you opened a Christmas present and realized the person who gave it to you had been watching you for months? That's exactly what happened in this next story. This story comes from a Reddit user who posted in 2020 about the most disturbing Christmas gift they'd ever received. The user, who went by the name throwaway_xmas 20 inches, lived with roommates in an apartment near their university. On Christmas morning, they found a small wrapped package on their doorstep. There was no name on it, no card, just their apartment number written on the tag. Assuming it was from a friend or neighbor, they brought it inside and opened it. Inside was a digital voice recorder. It was an older model, the kind you'd use for recording lectures or meetings. The user turned it on, curious if there was a message or explanation. The device powered up and displayed 47 recordings. Their curiosity turned to confusion. They pressed play on the first recording. It was the sound of them sleeping, breathing, shifting, the rustle of blankets, recorded from inside their bedroom. The user's blood went cold. They skipped to another recording. Same thing, sleeping sounds. But this one had a timestamp, 2:34 a.m., 3 weeks earlier. They kept listening, recording after recording, All of them captured audio of them sleeping. Some recordings lasted hours, but the most recent one was from the night before Christmas Eve. Someone had been in their room, repeatedly, for weeks, recording them while they slept. The user called the police immediately. Officers searched the apartment and found no signs of forced entry. All doors and windows were locked, but they did find something. A small hole drilled through the wall between the user's bedroom and the adjacent apartment unit. The unit next door had been vacant for 2 months, but someone had been accessing it. Someone had drilled through the wall, inserted a microphone, and recorded the user without their knowledge. Then, as a twisted Christmas gift, they'd returned the recorder, proof that they'd been listening all along. Police couldn't determine who had done it. The vacant apartment had been accessed using a maintenance key, but no one on the building staff admitted to it. No fingerprints were found. The investigation went cold. The user moved out immediately. They never found out who had been listening to them sleep. They never found out what that person did with those recordings. They just know that somewhere, on someone's device, hours of audio exist, intimate, private sounds captured without consent. And they have no idea why, no idea who, just the knowledge that someone thought it was an appropriate Christmas gift. But it gets worse, because the next gift wasn't just creepy. It was evidence of something much darker. In 2015, a man named David received a Christmas package in the mail from an unknown sender. The return address was from his hometown, a place he hadn't lived in over 10 years. David opened the package carefully. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a small taxidermied animal. A cat. Orange tabby. Preserved in a sitting position, eyes replaced with glass. David stared at it, confused at first. Then recognition hit him like a punch to the gut. This was Rusty, his childhood cat, the cat he'd had from age 7 to 15, the cat that had gone missing when David was a teenager. Rusty had disappeared one night and never came home. David's family had searched for weeks. They'd put up flyers, checked shelters, driven around the neighborhood calling his name. But Rusty was gone. The family assumed he'd been hit by a car or taken by a coyote. They'd mourned and eventually moved on. But now, 12 years later, here was Rusty, preserved, mounted, delivered to David's address. With the taxidermied cat was a note, typed and printed on plain paper. Found him. Thought you'd want him back. Merry Christmas. No signature, no explanation. David called his parents. They were as horrified and confused as he was. None of them recognized the handwriting or the packaging. The return address was a P.O. box in their old town. But when David contacted the post office, they said the box had been rented with cash and a fake name. No way to trace who sent it. David reported it to the police, but there wasn't much they could do. No crime had been committed. Technically, someone had just returned his pet. In a deeply disturbing way, but not illegally. David had Rusty's remains examined by a vet. The preservation was recent, within the last year. Which meant someone had kept Rusty's body for over a decade before deciding to have it taxidermied and sent back. The questions haunted David. Who took Rusty? Why keep him for 12 years? Why send him back now? And most disturbing, how did they know David's current address? He'd moved multiple times since leaving his hometown. He wasn't listed in public directories, so whoever sent this had been tracking him. David never got answers. He had Rusty cremated and scattered the ashes in his parents' backyard. But every Christmas since, David wonders if another package will arrive. Another piece of his past, weaponized and returned. Because whoever sent Rusty knows where David lives. And they wanted him to know they'd been watching for over a decade. So far we've talked about previous theme, but this next gift falls into a different category entirely. One that's somehow even more unsettling. This story was shared by a woman named Claire on a podcast about family secrets in 2022. On Christmas morning 2019, Claire and her family were opening presents at her parents' house. It was a typical Christmas. Her parents, her 2 siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, all gathered together. Near the end of the gift exchange, Claire's mother handed her an envelope. It wasn't wrapped, just a plain manila envelope with Claire's name written on it. "This came in the mail for you last week," her mother said. "It was addressed to our house, so I held onto it for Christmas." Claire opened the envelope. Inside was a DNA test result. Not the kit, the actual results. Already processed. Already analyzed. Claire was confused. She'd never taken a DNA test. She'd never sent her genetic information to any company. So how did these results exist? She read through the document. It showed her genetic profile, her ancestry breakdown, and, most disturbingly, a list of DNA matches, people she was related to. At the top of the match list was a name Claire didn't recognize, Michael Lawson. Relationship, father, 99.9% match. Claire's hands started shaking. Her father, the man sitting across the room, laughing with her uncle, was not named Michael Lawson. His name was Robert Brooks, and according to this document, he wasn't her biological father. The room went silent as Claire processed what she was seeing. Then, she noticed something else. Clipped to the back of the results was a handwritten note. Claire, you deserve to know the truth. Your mother had an affair. I'm your real father. I've been watching you your whole life, waiting for the right time to tell you. Merry Christmas. Michael. Claire's mother went pale. The room erupted. Robert demanded to see the document. Claire's siblings were asking what was happening. And Claire just sat there, holding proof that her entire life had been built on a lie. It turned out the DNA had been obtained without Claire's consent. Someone had collected it from a discarded cup or utensil and submitted it to a testing service, probably months earlier. Michael had been planning this reveal for a long time. Claire eventually met Michael. He confirmed he'd had an affair with her mother before Claire's birth. Her mother admitted it was true. Robert, the man who raised Claire, was devastated. The family imploded. Michael was never charged with anything. Obtaining someone's DNA without consent isn't illegal in most states, and sending test results as a gift, while cruel, isn't a crime. But Claire's life was shattered. Her parents divorced. Her relationship with her mother never recovered. And every Christmas since, Claire is reminded of the gift that destroyed her family. A gift from a man who claimed to love her but waited 26 years to reveal himself, choosing the most public, painful moment to do it. At least in that last story, the victim knew who sent the gift. But this next person wasn't so lucky. In December 2021, a man named Trevor moved into a new house with his wife and young daughter. They'd been there about 3 months. Long enough to settle in but still unpacking some boxes. On Christmas Eve, Trevor found a package on his front porch. It was small, wrapped in plain brown paper, with no return address. Just his name written on the label. Trevor brought it inside and opened it. Inside the box were 3 things: a set of keys, a photograph, and a note. The keys looked old brass, slightly tarnished. They were labeled with a small tag that read, "Front door, back door, garage." The photograph was of Trevor's house, not a real estate photo. This was taken recently, after they'd moved in. Trevor recognized his car in the driveway, his daughter's bike on the lawn, and the note, handwritten in neat cursive, said, "Dear Trevor, welcome to your new home. I lived here for 15 years. I made a lot of memories in those rooms. Here, I hope you make good ones too. I kept a copy of the keys, just in case I want to visit. Merry Christmas, your predecessor." Trevor's heart was pounding him. He immediately checked all the locks on the doors. Then he called a locksmith. He had every lock in the house changed that same day, Christmas Eve, at emergency rates. But the damage was done. Trevor couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been inside. He started noticing things out of place. A drawer slightly open, a closet door not fully closed. His wife dismissed it as paranoia, but Trevor wasn't so sure. He contacted the previous owner through the real estate agent. The previous owner, a woman in her 60s, was shocked and horrified. She said she'd turned in all her keys when she sold the house. She had no idea who would send such a package. Police investigated, but found no evidence of break-ins, no fingerprints on the keys. The handwriting on the note didn't match the previous owner's. Trevor installed a full security system, cameras, motion sensors, smart locks, hits. But he never felt safe in that house again. He and his wife sold it 18 months later and moved to a different state. To this day, Trevor doesn't know who sent the keys. He doesn't know if they were real or a prank. He doesn't know if someone actually came into his house while his family slept, or if it was just a psychological game meant to terrorize them. All he knows is that the gift worked. It drove them out. And somewhere, someone is probably laughing about it. Or worse, waiting to do it again to the next family. If you thought that was disturbing, this next story takes it even further. This story was shared on a cybersecurity forum in 2023 by a woman who received one of the most violating Christmas gifts imaginable. The woman, who used the username Secure Home Myth, had recently installed smart security cameras throughout her house. Cameras in the living room, kitchen, front porch, and backyard. She'd done it for safety after a string of break-ins in her neighborhood. On Christmas morning, she found a small gift bag hanging on her front door handle. Inside was a USB drive with a bow stuck to it and a note that said, "Merry Christmas. Enjoy the highlights." Confused, she took the USB inside and plugged it into her laptop. The drive contained a single folder labeled Your Year in Review. Inside were video files. She clicked on the first one. It was security footage from her own cameras, but not footage she'd saved. This was footage she'd never seen, clips edited together like a home movie. The video showed her walking around her house in her pajamas, cooking dinner, watching TV, arguing with her boyfriend. Private moments captured by her own security system and compiled by someone else. As she kept watching, her stomach turned. The footage included moments she didn't remember her cameras recording, angles that shouldn't have been possible, timestamps when her cameras were supposed to be off. Then came the worst part. Footage from her bedroom. She didn't have a camera in her bedroom. She'd specifically avoided putting one there for privacy, but someone else had. The video showed her getting dressed, sleeping, having intimate moments with her boyfriend, all recorded, all saved, all compiled into a highlight reel and given to her as a Christmas gift. She called the police immediately. A cybersecurity expert examined her system and found that all her cameras had been hacked months earlier. Someone had gained access through her weak Wi-Fi password and had been remotely viewing her footage ever since. But they'd also installed additional hidden cameras, physical devices, planted in her home during a period when she'd been on vacation. The hacker had broken in, installed cameras, and left without a trace. The USB drive was a message. "We've been watching. We have everything, and we wanted you to know." Police never identified the hacker. The USB had no fingerprints. The footage couldn't be traced. The woman moved out of her house, threw away all her smart devices, and now refuses to use any internet-connected cameras. She says the worst part isn't even the invasion of privacy. It's the not knowing. Not knowing who watched her. Not knowing what else they recorded. Not knowing if those videos are online somewhere, being shared, being sold. And not knowing if the person who sent the USB drive was someone she knew, a neighbor, a coworker, someone who smiled at her every day while secretly watching her most private moments. The final story comes from a woman named Emily, who shared her experience on a true crime podcast in 2024. In December 2020, Emily received a Christmas gift from an ex-boyfriend she hadn't spoken to in over 3 years. They'd dated briefly in college, broken up amicably, and lost touch. Emily was now engaged to someone else and planning her weddings. The package arrived at her apartment, delivered by hand, left on her doorstep with no shipping label. Just her name written on the box. Inside was a glass dome, the kind used to display delicate objects. Under the dome was a bouquet of flowers, dried, preserved, arranged beautifully. At first, Emily thought it was a strange but harmless gift. Maybe a generic, "Congratulations on your engagement," present from her ex. But when she looked closer at the flowers, her blood ran cold. These weren't just any flowers. They were the exact flowers from her current engagement photo shoot. Roses, eucalyptus, baby's breath. Arranged in the exact same way as her bouquet in the photos. Emily hadn't publicly announced her engagement yet. The photos were only on her private Instagram account, which her ex didn't follow. So how did he know? Then she noticed something else. Clipped to the base of the dome was a small printed photo. It was from her engagement shoot, a candid shot of her and her fiancé laughing together. A photo that hadn't been posted anywhere. It was one the photographer had sent privately in a preview gallery. With the photo was a note. "I'll always remember what we had. Congratulations on your new beginning. I'll be thinking of you. Forever yours." Emily's hands were shaking. This wasn't just a weird gift. This was evidence that her ex had been monitoring her private social media, somehow accessing photos that weren't public, and recreating personal details of her life. She reported it to the police. Officers visited her ex, who denied sending the package. He claimed he didn't even know she was engaged. But Emily didn't believe him, and when she checked her Instagram security settings, she found that her account had been accessed from an unknown device multiple times over the past 6 months. Her ex had been watching, silently, him, documenting her relationship, saving her photos, and then he'd sent her a gift that proved it. A preserved version of her happiness, trapped under glass. A reminder that he was still there, still watching, still thinking of her. Emily blocked him on every platform, changed all her passwords, and made all her social media accounts private. But the damage was done. She couldn't look at her engagement photos the same way. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching every moment of her new life. And when her wedding day came, Emily made sure security was tight, because she knew her ex would be thinking of her, and she didn't want him anywhere near. These are 7 disturbing Christmas gifts people actually received, from stalkers who used presents to prove they'd been watching, to violated privacy, to family secrets revealed in the cruelest way possible. These stories remind us that not all gifts come from a place of love. Sometimes a gift is a message, sometimes it's a threat, and sometimes it's proof that someone knows more about you than they should. This Christmas, if you receive a gift that makes you uncomfortable, one that reveals too much knowledge, crosses boundaries, or feels wrong in a way you can't quite explain, trust your instincts. Document it. Report it if necessary. Because the person who gave it to you wanted you to feel exactly the way you're feeling. And remember, not everyone who says Merry Christmas means you well. Stay safe this holiday season, and think carefully about what you're really unwrapping.
Thanks for watching. Every ending hides the beginning of another tale, and ours is already on its way. Stay tuned, you'll find the next chapter right here, and soon.